Hi, in this video I'll be reviewing how to plot graphs in Glowscript or VPython. I'll continue using that program that I coded in the previous video of a cylinder rolling down an incline. Let me play it so you can just refresh what you saw earlier. Here, when I click on the animation, we can see that the disk is not only translating but also rotating. Alright, a few folks had asked me last class if I could go over how to produce graphs for the motion of the cylinder. So let's visit the help page in VPython. So here I quickly Googled graphs and then VPython, came to this website, and it kind of goes over all the different sort of aspects of graphing that you could have. So there are two types of options for graphing. You have the fast option, which is automatically set for you. That's basically produces a fast version of the graph. Doesn't give you a lot of detail, but it actually still quite good. But if you want a little bit more robust and nicer graph, you can pick set the fast equal to false, and then you'll get a little bit more, it's a little bit slower, but it's a more interactive version. Okay, what we're going to do first is look at the fast option, which is automatically selected if you don't say what you want. So I'm going to go back to my Glowscript. The first thing we do, by the way, in terms of basics, is we're going to first need to define our graph. So quickest, easiest way to do that, let's just go into our animation. We're going to build in a few lines in here and write make a graph. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need to do is simply type in the graph that we want. We'll just call G1 is our first graph, and we'll call it graph. And if you want just to put open brackets, close brackets, then it'll automatically be defined to certain basic attributes. Okay, and then the next thing we need to tell is what we're going to plot on that graph. So we're going to basically say, well, we need x1 to be plotted. Now you have several options when you plot it. When you scroll down into the help page, you can see that you can plot a G curve or a G dots. Those are the two main ones that you will be looking at, or it's simply just called series is another way that you could also write. So if I do, for example, G dots, all right, let's do that. And then we're going to tell what we're going to put in there. So what do we need to put? Maybe just, for now, we'll just put in, close the brackets in here. All right. So if I just run the program at this point, I don't think you're going to see very much other than the things rolling down, because you need to be doing something within the loop. So inside the loop, you need to be telling what you're plotting. So down here, you're going to need to have a line in here where you say, I'm going to take x1 and I'm going to plot. Now, you have two things, your x coordinate and your y coordinate. Well, what is your x? In this case, it's time. And then your y coordinate, let's say we want to plot the x coordinate of our cylinder, which is c. This is the name of the object. So we're going to go c dot pos dot x. So it's going to be plotting the x coordinate of that. Now let's run it and see it. So every time in the loop, it's going to keep updating the position, and you're going to see it's going to be plotting these points in here. You'll notice they were all little points, but eventually these points are very, very close together, so it looks like one solid line. Now if you change this around and try different things, you could decide, well, maybe I don't want a G dots, but I want a G curve. That's just simply going to connect the points. And again, you're going to see a nice curving point. Now you might not like this thing that's changing over time, and you may notice also that there's no axis titles. So let's go through that a little bit. So when you go to your graph in here, you can choose a number of attributes that you would like to add. So if you go back to that help page, you have things like a title. You can set the width and the height of your graph. You can give it the x-axis title, the y-axis title, and you can also set the minimum and maximum points on your x-axis and the minimum and maximum points on your y-axis. So if I go back to my graph, maybe I want to put a little statement at the end here, and I would like to print the value of t, and I would like to print the value of p dot s, the x position of that cylinder. So why do I am doing that? Because I really would like to know how far does it reach. So in the end, actually, I should probably be picking a 1.2 and about 2.5 in terms of my axes. So if I do that in my graph in here, I might put in something like, let's put in x title equals, and you put quotes. If you're going to be putting text in here, it will be time in seconds. And then we've got y title. It'll be in quotes. We'll put in position in meters and close the quotes. And you can have a few other attributes that you could put in there as well. The way you can put a line. You can align it to the left of your screen or to the right of the screen. It's automatically to the left, I believe. when you do it. All right, and you can see all these sort of options that you can put in here. Let's set the x max and x min. So x min will be, we'll just say 0. X max was at 2.5 seconds. We'll do y min at 0, and then y max is going to be, if I recall, 1.2. So now if I plot those points in here, you're going to see that the graph is already made, and you can see the curve is going along as it rolls. All right, so that is showing the x position in here. Now, what would happen if you change the graph from the fast option into what we call the slow option? So in your graph, you could change one of the attributes over here and put comma and write fast equals not true, so it's going to be false. So let's just see what that does if you pull up this kind of graph. It's a little bit more nicer, I guess, and you can see all these other things. You can take a picture of it, you can save it, you can zoom in, you can actually scroll with it if you'd like, pan over here. So lots of different things that the user can do when they're playing with a graph. So it's up to you. It is a slower option. It does produce that graph a little bit slower, but in this case, because our program is not that big, you can use that feature. Another thing you might be interested in is actually plotting different things within the same graph. Let's suppose you want to plot not only the x-coordinate, but the y-coordinate. So what we can do is when we were setting up that x1, we might want to write in here, let's see, we're going to call it a g-curve, and we'll add a color to it. We'll say color equals color dot blue, and then we're going to put a label in here and call it x-coordinate of center of mass. Okay, let's do the same thing, and we're going to plot the y-coordinate of this. So I'm going to add that line in here, and we'll change this x to a y. We're going to call the color maybe red, and it's going to be the y-coordinate of this. Now we just need to add one more line over here. All right, we're going to copy this same line, and we're not only going to plot the x-coordinate, we're going to plot the y-coordinate. So we'll just change that x to a y1, and we're going to be doing the position in the vertical axis. So now, if I print it, I don't need this little print statement here at the end. If I run it, you can see, hopefully, if I haven't made any mistakes, all right, you get two curves that are being produced. And so you have both x and y for this variable. Okay, so hopefully that's helping you understand. You could produce a second graph if you wish. All you need to do is just maybe define G2 equals, and then write graph, and then make your second graph. You'll have another graph that will pop up. Now, if you're choosing to put maybe x1 on this curve, then you might have to add in, graph equals G1, so that you're telling that I'm going to plot this x1 on graph 1. Okay, so hopefully that's given you a bit of ideas of how to plot graphs, because a few people were asking that. You need to be able to do that for your project. You have to show at least, I would say, position over time, maybe velocity over time, and a bunch of other variables that you'd like to do. Okay, hope that was helpful.